We're here on the top of Mount Tolmie, overlooking our beautiful city of Victoria, BC, the traditional land of the Algonquin-speaking people, including the Esquimalt, Songhees, and Wasanic nations, where we live, learn, and raise our families. They say it takes a village, so let's meet them. Families of all shapes, sizes, and stories. Are you ready? Let's go.
I need my sass back.
If you're doing it all from meltdown to task and still fighting to keep up that sass, friend, I've got you. Hey, I'm Deb, host of Sass and Small Talk, the mental load of parenthood, Season 2. As a mom of 2 smallies, navigating life with a neurodivergent family and my own neurospicy brain, caregiving for aging parents, and trying to hold it all together with grace, I know what it means to carry the mental, emotional, and invisible load of parenting. But here's the thing, we weren't meant to do this alone. This season, we're exploring the many faces of parenthood, from single parents to co-parents, blended families to chosen families, and everything in between, right here in our beautiful city of Victoria, BC, and beyond. They're sharing real stories of overwhelm, grief, imposter syndrome, breaking generational cycles with the resilience it takes to keep showing up. Real parents, real families, real stories, because it takes a village to raise a child and a community to raise their parent. Darling,
I need my sass back.
how do we break cycles when the blueprint we inherited was broken? What does parenting look like when you're doing the work to heal yourself while raising kids who need more from the world and from you? Today, we're sitting with Nicole Ermineskin, also known as Nikky E, an Indigenous single mom, an artist, and a fierce cycle breaker who's rewriting what motherhood looks like in real time. Her journey, it's one of unlearning, reclaiming, and choosing joy, even after deep pain. Raised in a family where creativity was a way to survive, inspired by the strength and artistry of the ones who raised her, Nikky learned early on that healing could happen through rhythm, kindness, and truth. Now, as a Nêhiyaw and Métis mother of 2, she's building a life rooted in community and culture, a life where her children always come first, building her career around their needs, their rhythms, and their joy. Self-taught and soul-driven, Nikky is a digital media artist, business owner, educator, advocate, and community builder, video and audio engineer, producer, recording and performing artist, MC, and event curator. She mentors the Indigenous youth to create, heal, and use their voice to take up space in the artistic community. Her story is one of hope in motion, a living example of resilience, truth, and the power of turning pain into purpose. This is Nikky. Hi, Nikky. Hi. Fun fact before we start, the set behind me is the true essence of her artistry. My girl did this set. Okay, so, and I know you're not going to mention that, so I'm going to just do that for you. She's been part of the Sass and Smalls team since the onset with TELUS and StoryHive, so I am honored to have her here. I didn't have to beg her. You were willing to share your story, but I had to hunt her down because she is a hot commodity in this city. Again, you'll soon see, but this is the kind of talent we're dealing with, and she's usually behind the camera. And so we're very, very lucky to have her in front of the camera. So welcome, Miss Nikky. I'm very happy to have you. We have so much to unpack, so let's just start.
Yeah.
What do you think? Before we dig into the history of what led you here today, let's start with your world today. I think that's really important. Who sits at your table? Tell me about your family story.
I'll introduce myself. Tanse Nêhiyaw. I'm Nêhiyaw. My family's from Flying Dust First Nation, Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan. And yeah, my given name at birth is Nicole Ermineskin. My MC name is Nikky E.
Nikky E. I love this. Thank you for giving us the essence of who you are. So who sits at your table, Miss Nikky?
Oh, well, I'm a single mom of 2. I have a 6-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. And the 3 of us live at home.
I love this. And what does your parenting style look like at home?
Oh,
Loaded
definitely.
question.
it's a mix between chaos and structure, I guess.
Okay. Good healthy medium.
Yeah, we kind of, I don't know. A lot of the work that I do is kind of chaotic, and it's like I kind of thrive in those environments. Um, and yeah, my kids, I kind of don't have a lot of structure at home. I kind of go with the flow and um, the way that they like to be in the world, and I support that.
So it's more of a child-led family structure. I love that.
Yeah.
With routines, with structure.
Yeah, we have our little routines, right? Like my son is very routine based. He has his own routines. Like he knows what he wants
Mhm.
and is very like, tomorrow, this is our plan. This is what I'm wearing. These are my shoes. These are the toys that are coming. This is where we're eating. So he has everything planned before
He's a planner.
and I'm like, I like it because I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna drive you and it'll be great.
So you're also a chauffeur.
Yes.
You're a planner and a chauffeur. I love that. Very
Yeah.
nice. So what are you most proud of showing up for your kids? I know that's another loaded question because there's so much more to it, but I wanted to get these kind of on the surface questions. What do you think they admire most about you as their mama? And what are you most proud of?
I think Honestly, I think they admire the fact that, no matter what life threw at me, I still followed my dreams
Ah,
and I still um allowed it to happen, and I think that's something that I know my oldest hasn't really seen.
mm,
My son is a little different. So like he's definitely had a different experience than my daughter, but you know, I yeah, I see them when we do shows or I perform or I do something that makes me really happy. I see how they get happy and they're
oh,
excited and then they feel more confident to do the things that they want to
ah,
do.
best
Um
modeling ever.
yeah, my
Yeah.
my oldest is definitely an artist, like performing artist, a poet, plays
Mm.
guitar, is a DJ.
Oh my God.
So they definitely
I want to sit in your living room one day.
and then my son is an artist.
Oh,
He is a
illustrator.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, so you make room for the artistry. You
Oh
make
yeah.
sure that is, front and center.
Yep.
Oh, that's incredible. So yeah, they are proud of that, and you certainly are proud of that because that's that reflection of the choices you made. But we'll get more into that. Um, what does joy or safety look like in your home?
Joy looks like us all stimming together.
Okay, and what's that?
Oh, like somebody will say something or like start singing a song
Uh,
and then we'll either finish the song or somebody will say something
ah,
funny and then we'll all kind of do it and then it kind of just like steamrolls
oh, I
and
love
then
it.
it just
Harmony, all that
yeah.
stuff. You just go,
Yeah, it just like
oh,
we just are so silly. It's like the silliness and the laughing and the
oh,
being yourself and like just being safe to unmask and just be
yes,
yourself
I love
and
that.
yeah, like I haven't really experienced that in like a home, like in a home
Home,
setting.
yeah.
And yeah, like yeah, just a lot of laughing, but things get real. But like
Sure, sure.
we figure it out
But
and
this
like
is your place of joy and safety in the
yes.
home, stimming together, doing the things you guys love, and it kind of still centers around this artistry of expression.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And I just found out recently that stimming, like singing, can be stimming. And I never realized that because I find myself kind of vocalizing once in a while, or I see, like friends that do that and it's repetitive almost. And you're like, oh, this actually is comforting. It centers us. So that's what stimming is, the repetitive something. Is that what, like
Yeah.
a definition that you can,
I don't know. I don't know. Like it's definitely repetitive, but it's, like somebody makes a funny noise and then we'll copy the noise
yeah,
and
yeah, I
then
love that.
and then somebody else and then it will just like and then it just
It just
goes
becomes an orchestra
and
of
then all of a
awesomeness.
sudden like 20 minutes go by and we're like just laughing
Oh,
and it's so nice, like
I
it's
love
and
it.
it just happens so
Yeah,
spontaneously
that's the best
too.
part. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. So you guys are each other's people.
Oh
Like you're just
yeah.
like they get you, you get them. I
Yeah.
love that cohesiveness, and that just makes it. I love that so much. Okay, now we're gonna get to the nitty gritty. Okay, I want to talk about Nikki, and how she became Nikky, the woman, Nikky, the mom, Nikky, the family, like machine, right? Nikky, the artist. I want to hear all about it, but we have to really dig deep into the history. There is a reason why you parent with intention and you walk through, so many layers of hardship. And I'd really like to go to where it began, your upbringing, your family, your home life, wherever you feel shaped the way you move through motherhood, and also whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm going to just give you the mic. I'm going to sit back and relax.
Well, it all started in Vancouver, 1985. That's where I was born. My mom's tubes were tied, so I was like a miracle baby from the beginning. Like it was an interesting creation story for sure.
Not surprising. You are a miracle. Yes.
And my mom, unfortunately has her own struggles, and raising children was definitely one of those struggles. I definitely don't blame her. I'm actually really grateful for my upbringing, but I was raised by my biological grandfather and his wife in Vancouver, and
What are their names?
Henry and Peggy.
Oh, and what do
Yeah.
you call them?
They were mom and dad,
Mom
and then
and
like
dad.
grandma, grandpa. Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
yeah. So they raised me very humble home. We lived in social housing. Like we they lived off of old age pension. Like we did what we could, and they raised me, and I grew up in the same house until I moved out when I was 21. So
Hey,
like we lived in the same apartment that whole time.
that truly was home.
Yeah.
hmm
Like I was lucky in that way, I guess, where I had that stability, and I went to the same elementary school my whole life.
Okay.
I went to the same high school, and like I knew the same people growing up,
That's
right?
great.
So like I was lucky in that way where, they gave me stability and um really taught me about life. My grandma, she was conceived on a freight train from Wabasca, Alberta
Ugh.
to Vancouver,
Ugh.
and was born on Cordova and Main Street when it was like shacks
Mm.
and forest in 1934. She lived in East Vancouver her whole life, raised kids. That was her job, and she was amazing at it. And she passed away at Mount St. Joseph's Hospital when I was 21. I had my daughter, and my daughter was about 6 months old,
Oh,
and
you had a baby when she had passed.
yeah, right before. But she held on
She held on to meet her.
to me, and she named
Oh.
her as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, she was really sick, and but she wanted to stay because it was her first great grandbaby. So she was like, "No, I'm gonna stay." And I was like, "Can you please name her?" And
Oh, that's beautiful. Were you part of the caregiving kind of her caregiving team, or was she sick as in like in the hospital, or was she at
it was a bit of
home?
both. It was a bit of both. Yeah, I was definitely there with her through after my grandpa passed. My grandpa passed away when I was 16. Um, and so I was definitely her support person, but also at the same time, um, I didn't have any support, and
You were the only child as far as the household
yeah,
is
as far
concerned.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing is I'm one of 8 children.
One of 8. That's
So
a tiny detail to leave out.
so my mom and dad, they both have children.
Okay.
They were all raised together in the prairies. So I was raised as an only child, so I didn't even know that they existed until I was in my early teens.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
why they were mom and dad.
Yeah.
Up until your early teens, how old is that?
Oh, about, I would say like 13, 14, because I remember I met my sister when I was about 14 or 15. I went to Edmonton for my first time and like went there on the Greyhound bus by myself, which
yourself?
is wild.
That's
I wouldn't
wild.
ever do that now, but
I want to
But
do
I also-
I'm like half a century and I want to do it by myself. Wait a second. So you were age 30. Did you know at this point on that bus ride, did you already know that I'm meeting a sibling, or
Yeah.
was this okay?
Yeah.
So how were you told? Like when did the truth come out? Like
Well, my mom told me, and I was like, oh, I want to meet them. And then we just kind of started to connect over the
Hey,
phone, and
let
yeah.
me ask you this. This is kind of the, how do I word this? How, okay, you said my mom told me,
Mhm.
as in Grandma
Oh,
Peggy. Okay,
yeah,
okay,
no,
okay.
my biological mother.
Okay, got
My
it.
biological mother, who I actually knew growing up, like they were more of an auntie role than a mom role in my life.
Okay, but you knew her as mom or you knew her as auntie?
I kind of knew her as
Okay,
auntie, but now I refer to her as like mom,
I love
even
it.
though it's like, yeah, it's super complicated. One thing I
Oh,
will
beautiful.
say
I
is
wouldn't,
like
yeah, beautiful.
not like 80 to 90% of indigenous like
Yeah,
relations is complicated, very complicated. And yeah, I just so happen to have a complicated family history.
yeah. Yes, and then yet there's this. It is amazing that I can already sense the compassion, like that you always preface everything. Like even the other times that we spoke, there you preface with like, "I'm not blaming anyone." Like it's just like there's forgiveness, there's compassion, there's understanding of your history. Even though maybe once upon a time you might not have understood it, but now you do as a mama. And we'll get to that present day. I'm still in the past here. I'm still
Yeah.
living in the past. I just want to know. Do you feel like this decision to have you stay with your grandma and grandpa growing up before knowing anything, meeting your siblings, did you do you feel like that was a gift given to you
Yes.
ultimately?
Yes. I don't think I'd be sitting here, honestly. Like I don't. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I feel like I don't know. This might sound strange to say.
Nothing's ever strange. Nothing's ever strange.
Um. I don't know. My mom is very intuitive woman, and we come from a long line of very intuitive people. And I think she knew. I think she knew that there was something different, and that I needed to be somewhere different.
Mm.
And um, yeah, my whole creation story is pretty wild, but like, yeah, I respect her for that. I think growing up, I didn't because I didn't
Of
understand.
course.
And it
Naturally.
wasn't until I had my own children that I really was like, okay, I get it. And um, I don't know, I don't know what she's been through, but I know that, yeah, she definitely didn't have an easy life. Um, and I understand now, and I have compassion. I have compassion for her, and I really respect that decision that she made. Um, like my siblings all grew up either on the reserve or within like a Christian family, like very Christian family.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and when my grandpa took me in, my grandma and my grandpa took me in, they were in their early 50s, and my grandpa had gotten sober,
Okay.
um, and he became a reverend, and he helped other people get sober,
Wow.
and so those are my first memories, are going to like church and going to AA, and
He brought you into
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I knew the Serenity Prayer when I was like 5.
Incredible.
Which is super wild. Like
It is wild.
um, like I wouldn't bring my kids to an AA meeting these days, but like I feel like things happen for a reason,
Yeah.
and maybe I needed to understand some of those things at a young age. Um, like both of my grandparents on my mom's side, well, my grandma on my mom's side went to residential school. My grandpa, he did not. Um, my grandma that raised me, she went to day school, but she only went to grade 2. She only had a grade 2 education, and then she had to drop out, and she raised kids.
Wow.
She had 9 other siblings, and she was the oldest.
Okay.
So
This is your mom's.
this is Peggy.
This is Peggy.
This is Peggy.
Okay.
And yeah, so my dad went to residential school. Our family on that side went to residential school, and um yeah, that changed the course of my dad's life completely. I didn't know him. I met him once when I was 27 years old. I went to Flying Dust, my reserve, and met him at a powwow, and we spent the day together, and the next time I saw him, he had passed away.
Hmm.
And
How old were you?
oh, that holy moly. It was a few years after I met him, so I was like in my early 30s, I believe.
Okay, you were an adult at this point.
Yeah, and uh, but I know that he went to residential school, and I know that he's one of the stories where
Hmm.
a lot of the horrible things, like some of the most horrible things have happened. He was the age of my son, he was like 4 when he went. So yeah, he struggled. And the way that he coped was alcohol and ended up taking him. So
And here you are, you honor his memory and the suffering by speaking the truth.
yeah.
And how many years did this have to take for you to be able to admit the truth, speak the truth, know the truth?
Oh, know the truth. Yeah. Probably during my 20s, that's when I started to learn a lot about my history,
Mm.
where I'm from, and my family. And, I advocated for youth voice a lot. Like I worked with youth for like 12 years, and that was my job. But the one thing that was hard for me was to tell my story, which is why I'm so elusive and like people don't really know much. And I kind of like that, but at the same time, I understand the importance of sharing my story, because I know that I'm not the only one who's been through that, or has been displaced, or has been through these challenges in life. And like I think there was a point when I wanted to give up. Many points, actually. I'm not gonna lie, and it started at a really young age. Um, and I'm just so happy that I fought through it.
Me too.
And
Your purpose is very clear right now. We'll get to exactly what that purpose is. You got to hang on for that part, because this is the turnaround story. I think this is why I'm so honored. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, really, for trusting me and trusting really everyone who's going to be watching this and hearing this. You are sharing something so incredibly sacred to you, the history of your family, the history of yourself, and I'm there's no words except thank you. But how essential it is to know the truth behind everything, because your turnaround, your whatever happens, not a turnaround, because it's not you who need to do the work, although you made choices, and those choices led to the life you have. It's just so impactful knowing where you came from. It really is. So thank you for trusting us. Thank you. I'm glad we got you at a time where you're willing.
mhm.
Yeah, but that takes such strength, but obviously to survive what you did, what your family did, and knowing what you know, strength, the essence of strength and resilience. So thank you. But I got to go back to your grandparents. There was a different flavor there
Mhm.
in the way you were raised. What was that? And how did it kind of lead to the next part of your life? That's a big one.
Yeah, the flavor. They were elders.
Yeah.
They were boomers. They were elders. I was raised as a Gen X kid.
Okay, this is crazy to me.
Like I
Not a Gen X person, though. This
Yeah.
is not a Gen X age group,
yeah, no.
but you grew up Gen X.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, what does that mean?
I had a key to my house at 7 years old, right? So a
That's
year,
sweet.
like my son is 6, so that like that's just wild to me. He's not
Wow.
gonna have a key at 7. But, like,
You know better.
yeah,
Me
and
too.
like I remember the first time I rode the bus, I was 10. So it was the
Wow.
way that they saw the world was very different,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of independence and a lot of figuring it out on your own. But like I said, my grandpa was a reverend, but before that, he was a Rolling Stone. Like he was a musician that traveled all over Turtle Island and
Come
played
on now.
shows, and
Ugh.
handsome, big brown, tall man, just like playing country music, and it was like swoon worthy, like that. And that's
Yeah.
how him and my grandma fell in love. Side note.
Okay, we get a love story out of this.
And my grandma was a go-go dancer.
Oh, come on now.
So like on the downtown east side on Hastings and Main, back before like the way it is now, it used to be like Granville. It used to be like where everyone went to go party and like
Yeah.
dance, and And it was segregated at that time.
Okay.
So it was like men on one side, women
Mm.
on the other. The only place you can meet was on the dance floor.
On the dance floor. Okay.
So my grandpa was playing that night, and my grandma was there with one of her sisters, and her sister's like, "You have to come see this guy." She's like, "I don't want to."
Oh, come on. There was resistance at first. That's awesome.
And then, well, there was resistance to a lot.
the whole
yeah,
thing?
but like until she gave in. But
Thank goodness for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, she was a go-go dancer,
Oh, that's
and
incredible.
but looking back, she did give him lots of resistance. But like in her story, she's like, we looked at each other and instantly fell in love.
Oh.
And I'm just like, wow, that is so beautiful.
That is.
And like when we talk, so their story was really beautiful. And like,
You're talking about he is a Rolling Stone,
yeah,
swoon worthy. And were you were very much part of that world too, right? You
Oh,
saw
yeah.
him play the music. You heard the music. You saw the swooning. Okay.
so we never talked, nobody knew about neurodivergency or autism or
Okay.
any of that growing up. Like that was never a thing. But my
Yeah.
grandpa was 100% autistic.
Okay.
He was an amazing musician. You could give him any instrument and he would figure out how to play it. He spoke 6 different languages.
Just gifted all around.
Like we could go to Chinatown and he would be able to talk in Mandarin and Cantonese.
Come on.
And I'm just standing there and they're
Self-taught? Get out of here. So he's
Yeah.
brilliant. Genius.
yeah, and then he also was part of the founding group to start the friendship centers in Canada,
Bless.
which ended up being a big, huge
Huge.
part of my journey. Like I've worked in 4 different friendships. 5? I want to say 5 now, or is it might
Wow.
be 4? I think we're still at 4. 4. So 4
Okay.
different friendship centers. So
Out
yeah.
of kind of like
Oh,
regard for him kind of thing, or like you're following his legacy, or just
Honestly,
a natural inclination.
all my path that I've taken in life, I had no idea that he did that. After he passed away, I found a bunch of his stuff and found his resume,
You're kidding me.
and it's like so
Wow.
parallel. And I'm
Okay,
like,
that's
whoa. And it's
cool.
like, it's kind of like I kind of took over in some way.
You sure did.
And
You took on his legacy, did you not?
I know, well, and
And he didn't-
unintentionally
And
though.
unintentionally, he did
Yeah.
not sit there and go, okay, this is what you're going
No.
to carry on. No. He
No.
just played the role himself, lived that life, and it just naturally found its way to you. What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a little bit miraculous
Yeah,
right there.
that's the universe though.
the
You know,
universe,
like
right.
that's that trust and that faith, right? Like that is the thing that has gotten me through to any situation, and I am so grateful for it because I don't, like there's times when it's like I don't even know what I have faith in or trusting in, but I do. And I know that this is just part of it. And now looking back, I understand that a lot of my struggles I had to go through,
Mm.
in order to learn what I needed to learn in order to be the helper I'm supposed to be and understand people on a human level, and from experience. So out of high school, I went right into audio engineering school.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Jump right in.
and thanks to a teacher who gave me an assignment because I was like, I don't know. And he's like, well, if you could do anything, what would you want to do? I was like, make music.
Oh, that was an easy answer.
Yeah, he asked me, he's like, write a paper. He's like, I want you to go research it.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, go to a recording studio.
He encouraged you to immerse.
So I went into a recording studio and I remember walking in and being like, oh, this is really cool. And he's like, you want to hear it when it's turned on? I'm like, yeah. And he turned it on and all of the hair on the back of my neck and my arms just stood up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I remember my heart dropping and I was like, this is what I want to do.
This is the
And
moment.
it just like lit something that was never there
Oh.
before. And I said, I'm going to go for it. And I took the student loan, took 10 years to pay off, but I did it.
Yeah, that was worth it. That was worth
And
it for you.
And I did that, and I got a diploma in audio engineering and production.
Oh,
And then I had a dream of being a famous rapper.
A dream.
And then the universe is like, actually, no, we want you to work with youth and help them be famous rappers. And I was like, oh, okay, that's great.
Okay, let's just do that.
And I ended
You
up,
said yes to it, didn't you?
yeah, I did say yes to it, and it
Calling.
ended up, going from a small little studio. I'm not going to name drop people. I'm going to try not to name drop folks, but like, no, I'm not. But out of respect. And like, so there was someone who made a really amazing East Van rapper who made a mixtape with a bunch of youth out of East Van.
Okay.
And they ended up raising $5,000 for a studio, and they needed help starting the studio. So I just happened to
swoop in somehow.
and
Just be present. You were just present. Yeah.
yeah, and then that program, like that ended up becoming an actual program that was a $150,000 a year program where we took the barriers away for Indigenous youth to access music and media like this. So it's like teaching them how to do podcasts, teaching them how to record their music. We've like that was one of the first times that I did the music, like the songs in the music video workshops. You know, we taught about like marketing, grant writing, like sustaining yourself as an artist,
The
and
hard parts, the admin stuff, the not so fun parts.
yeah, and that was like the tipping point of all of these amazing dreams and manifestations I put into the universe like 20 years ago. And the wild thing is, like, right now in this moment, all of those things are happening
Right now.
right now.
Real time.
Like, and
I'm so happy
it took
for you.
20 years, but I'm like, I understand the process and why it took that long now.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful because, you know, it started off so humble, and now I'm like, okay, I'm going to use all of these teachings and I'm going to put it into this program and grow it to help other people and take away those barriers to create. Because whether we like to admit it or not, you know, like film and music is a business, and it costs a lot of money to do
Yes.
professional work, right? For me, I didn't ever have the financial resources to do that, which is why I'm self-taught. I taught myself videography during COVID, and I'm so happy I did. I'm like,
I am too, because it's benefited me too. You're learning the technical aspect of the artistry too, on top of like expression. So the creative aspect and the technical aspect, that's what your toolbox was filled with. Incredible. So you could be this, like, the Nikky of all trades, which I love, and you served the community by passing it to them. Incredible.
Mhm.
Now, I do have to go back to something.
Okay.
This happened by your choices that you made. But there is one aspect that I do know happened in our conversations. And I want to know if you'd be comfortable to share. Was there a point in your life, a significant moment that opened your eyes to these opportunities, to these choices? I'll give you a little hint. Did you discover something about yourself that allowed you to see that? Because you kind of got started with neurodivergence and ADHD, and
Mhm.
that did not happen back then. That wasn't an easy thing to access. Did you eventually access that?
Yes, I
Yes, you
did. About 6 years ago now.
What did you discover?
I was diagnosed with ADHD.
And I'm going to tell you something. People say that, we say that, but this was there's a story behind this. You got diagnosed. What happened after this diagnosis?
My life completely changed. Um,
Incredible.
I really struggled with my mental health, depression, anxiety,
Mm.
social anxiety really bad.
Ugh,
Um, I went through a period where I felt like I lost my voice, and I was really struggling, and I just had my son, and you know, my body was recovering from like having a baby, and there was just a lot going on, which I'm not going to get too much into, but it was really complicated, and it was one of the most difficult parts of my life.
Yeah.
And as far as like my mental health and just where I was at, it wasn't a good place. And um, I was doing some research, and I was like, I think I might be autistic or have ADHD. I'm like, I'm going to talk to my doctor. And luckily, I was able to find a doctor who's amazing.
Wonderful.
And I ended up talking to a psychologist.
Be a psychologist for
And
that. Yeah.
they diagnosed me with ADHD, and everything clicked. Like, I think for the first like almost year, there was a big grieving because it was like what my life would have looked like if I knew before. I think I internalized a lot of my, um, the not so fun aspects of neurodivergency, and I just wrote them off as character defects. I
Oh,
was just like, this is the way I am, I guess. And I'm like, and it felt like no matter how hard I tried or like what, like I would always mess up. I'd always drop the ball. I'd always get so far and then 10 steps back. And it was really hard.
that's
So
hard. So hard as a young woman, and coming from your history, and then just all the challenges society puts on when us, but like being a woman, being indigenous, like dealing with so much on top of it. There's something chemically happening, and you found your answer, and it changed
everything.
everything.
Um,
That's loaded.
Around the same time, I had found stable housing for the first time in like 5 years.
That helps.
And yeah, I am so grateful. Like being able to like be accepted into social housing and have subsidized rent and having a roof overhead. I moved to Victoria pregnant with 5 bags. And everything that I have, I worked really hard for while I was here. And it wasn't until after I was diagnosed and then I started researching it and finding tools and finding ways and like accepting
Yeah,
that
that.
I'm like, okay, this is just the way that my brain works. I'm like, okay, so let's figure it out. Let's try to figure out how to, like, okay, I know I hit a wall at a certain point and then, or I like the self-destruct or whatever it is
Yeah.
that
The loop.
happened,
Yeah.
the loop. And I'm like, how do I break that? How do I break this loop? And,
Mhm.
partially medication for sure. But also like the therapy and the research and the trying the tools and trying the things that were working and seeing what was working and
Yeah.
using those. It got me out of the loop.
Wow.
And I was able to actually step into who I am.
Truly.
And it was the first time ever in my life that I not only loved myself, but I was like, I'm proud of myself,
Right.
and where I come from, like it's hard. And like I hear it. I still hear those voices. I still hear my guidance counselor in grade 10 being like, like you better do good at school. You're going to end up like the rest of your people downtown. He's like, like my French teacher being racist to me in French and thinking that I don't understand because I was the only Native kid in the class, and then kicking me out of the class because I understood what she said. Like my first counselor being like, she's like, you know what? You got to get it out of your head that you can save the world because you're never going to be able to save the world. And I'm like,
And then
like,
cut to 10 years later.
I'm not saying I'm personally going to save the world, but
You
like,
took some steps, and
but
let me
like,
tell you,
like, it was just, it's just like all of these things and then the self-talk, and
Yeah.
it really was a process to like
of unlearning.
unlearning and releasing that and letting it go and being like, okay, that had nothing to do with me. And there was something really beautiful that happened in that. And I really understand alchemy and the way that we transmute our energy, and something clicked.
Yeah.
And I understood it. And then I'm like, I know how to use this now in a good way. And so now I was able to take all of that hurt and all of that, all of it, and transform it into something that filled my soul,
Yeah.
but also made an impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all I want,
You
know?
advocated for yourself
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Then you started advocating for the community around you.
Yeah.
And of course for your family. But the fact that you started with yourself first, that's the ultimate act of self-love that you didn't even know you had. You didn't make room for it because the voices. And so now you advocate for yourself. Now you're advocating for the community, and you're not just surviving and healing, you are now leading. That is your purpose. And you're finding your purpose, which is so rewarding. Like incredible. we're talking too about breaking the generational cycles, and I think that's and I wanted to clarify generational cycles, intergenerational cycles. Like same,
Yeah.
same. Um, but the fact that you are not just breaking it for yourself, which it's already a struggle to break it for ourselves, but we're breaking it for others simply by finding the right tools to support them, going against what counselors have taught you. You're doing the opposite. That's crazy to me. Like, it's just unbelievable how you're able to. That takes so much character. Now take me through how this artistry started. So you got into programs, you learned, you taught. You said something about being an MC. Let's talk about that. MC Nikky, what's going on here?
So at 10 years old, I started writing poetry.
Ugh.
And it's actually a funny story. I wrote a poem about a guy that I had a crush on, who's actually no longer here with us.
Oh, bless.
And then I was like, my best friend at the time, I'm like, dude, I rap this. I'm like, can I do it for you? And she's like, why rap? Like, that's so weird and random. And I ended up rapping this poem, and she was like, that was so good. She's like, you got to show him. And she made me rap it in front of him. But
You did it?
I did it.
Oh, that's incredible.
And that was it.
Okay, that was wild.
And then it was like rapping in the park with your friends and like, and
I love that.
yeah, it's so funny. And it's just like, yeah. And slowly I learned, and the way that I learned was I would learn rap songs that were already created. And I would learn the lyrics.
Oh, you did that. You did like almost like cover tunes and
Yeah.
rapping. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd memorize the lyrics, and then I would rap them back, and then like see where they're breathing, see how they're doing it.
You got all the nuances. Again, self-taught.
Yeah.
Okay, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it was just always like part of my heart. And it's like, it's the one time, like now, like not back then, but now, like when I'm on stage and I have a microphone, I'm like, it's the one place where I feel like I'm completely free and I am who I am, and I can say and I can do and I can be who I want in that moment and everything that I ever wanted to be. And it's like the most freeing experience. And it's like, and you get so much dopamine from it too, which
for
is
sure.
great. But
Yeah.
like, yeah. And so, yeah, that's where it started. Through high school, I was in band. Oh, and 10
Yeah.
also. I was the one kid in my school who got a tuition paid for to go to a summer performing arts school called
Yeah.
Atlantis in Vancouver.
Okay.
It was a group of philanthropists that had this program, and it was all performing arts.
Oh,
Everything from street theater to mass to clowning to like
I love that.
choir and like,
Oh, that felt your cup, didn't it?
and I ended up going for 3 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's where it bit me. Like, that's where the bug bit
You
me.
got bit,
And
yeah.
I was like, this. But to be fair, I was also 4 years old with a little wig running around the house performing.
So
and
you
like,
had the bite earlier, you just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. And so you expose yourself to, like, you were surrounded
Yeah.
by, the true art that you are. I mean, this is part of your identity. So what I'm getting from your identity is advocacy, compassion, kindness, gentle, obvious stuff, but also just like artistry and expression and teaching. And this is what I love, because it's a lot of times with struggle and history that you have. I'm pretending I actually know, and I don't. And this is all the learning that I have to do. But coming from my kind of history of, like, I've experienced racism, and I've experienced being a less than. I've experienced being the only, person of color, and of course being a woman. There's that, wonderful, little detail as well. So I want to go back to your role as a mama. How do you take your experience as an advocate, as a person who's seen it all of it? Really, there's like nothing left. Like, you've experienced all of it. How do you take that and then help it shape who you are as a mom? I know you were saying that, you're playful and you bring the artistry with your singing and stimming and all that stuff. But what other aspects of your life are you bringing into your home? Almost like your toolkit is your
I am very honest and real with my children about the way the world is.
Okay. And
And
we got that
even,
from Grandma
yeah,
Peggy, didn't we?
yeah. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. You know, the, I'm not an academic. I didn't go to university, but I have definitely a PhD in street knowledge. And thank goodness for my grandma,
Yeah.
like,
That's the good stuff.
that's the stuff that kept me alive,
Hmm.
even in situations that weren't um, involved in like street culture or whatnot, even in real life, everyday situations, those have really, like, that knowledge has really helped me. And I bring that into my work, but
Yeah.
like also with my, like, my parenting, I'm very honest with them, and sometimes it's not the best. Like, no, sometimes it's like hard conversations, but like, I'm not going to let them think that the world is one way when it really isn't and not prepare them, and the truth is like even going to Walmart. We go to Walmart as a family, we get followed around everywhere we go, we're followed by the secret shoppers and having to
Uh,
sit down with like your 6-year-old and explain. It's like, they think we're gonna steal. He's like, but we're not. He's like, you have money, we're not gonna steal. And I'm like, they don't know that. They're just looking at us and, because that's the way that Canadian society is and the way it was created, like it wasn't created for us. It wasn't created for Indigenous folks. It wasn't created for BIPOC folks, unfortunately. And yeah, that's something I teach them. And also I teach the kids that I work with is to use your voice. Stand up for yourself. Say what you need. Don't be afraid of that. I'm like, don't let people silence you, and if you need something, you ask for it, and like, you're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to like look outside the box and like, yeah, I'm like, I just am really real with them about colonialism and capitalism.
100%.
And I'm like, this is, and I see it in them. I see the shift where they understand, and it's like, it's hard. Like, I try not to talk too much with my 6-year-old, but I am really real with him because he sees it.
He sees it.
And he doesn't really get it. And I'm like, it's just, unfortunately,
There's
it's
no
harder
logic to it. Come on. Even
Yeah.
a 6-year-old knows
But
there's no logic to this.
the thing I can tell him is we can be different,
Choices.
right? We can walk differently in this world. We don't have to follow that or feel that that's true.
And we can use
You
our
know?
voice. And that's, earlier, and this is probably going to be edited out, I have to say, because I had a little bit of a brain fart where I just didn't know where I was going because I was just kind of like, I'm pretty much speechless, and I'm trying to like round up the words to like, there's just so much here that I'm learning and unpacking with you. I know what I was going to say is that, and it's actually quite fitting. I know as a person of color, I know with my history that using your voice it didn't come easy. And so the fact that you're teaching your children and you're advocating for the youth in your community to use their voice through expression, whether it's creativity or even just like using your voice generally and making some noise, right? That, and I mean, making some noise figuratively and literally to protect yourself, to keep yourself safe, to fight those secret shopping situations and being turned away with services. And these are things that like the privileged, will not understand. And many times I consider myself part of that privileged people because I don't get followed around. Well, maybe I do, and I just don't notice. And I think part of this is the education, and you're giving this honest, raw truth to your kids. What a gift. And you're living it too, and the modeling is incredible.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
Yeah. I also want to say something too, like using your voice in these situations or like standing up for yourself, yes, but also using our voices for each other and community and using our voices in a good way, like I think a lot of times we forget how powerful we are as humans. and how we can create the things that we want, and how our thoughts and our words create our reality.
Yeah.
Very, very simply.
Mm-hmm.
And these are very basic principles and teachings I teach these children, is like, we need to be careful of our thoughts and what we say, because that's how we create the world that we live in. And energy, like, attracts like.
Yeah.
We're all just energy. And yeah, and to be able to speak goodness into the world even after going through a lot or experiencing a lot, that's where the power is.
Yes.
Like, you didn't take it away from me.
Yeah.
You won't ever take it away.
Yeah.
That's me.
I love
That's
that.
you. That's who you are,
Yeah.
right?
And we could hang on to, like, we could go with this ongoing cycle. The fact that you chose to break the cycle, not just with using your voice, not just with finding outlets and educating yourself and educating your family, but also the impact of kind of the essence of forgiveness, not like forgiveness in the sense of being able to know where the true fight is. The true fight is choosing the alternate route, learning from it, advocating for one another, protecting each other, raising our families in this kind space. That's the generosity of your heart. It really is. And it's hard to do the everyday forgiveness and everybody. The fact that you're able to kind of see, and I've heard this in like other conversations with you when we have them, you say things like, some people just don't know. They're ignorant, and we can teach them, or we can model love and forgiveness, or model ending it now, choosing your battles, and also fighting the right battles, right? And choosing when to walk away and choosing when to turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. Incredible.
Yeah. I do want to say something too on the privilege note.
Yeah.
I consider myself very privileged, and I don't take that lightly. I don't. Anything that I've gained through my experience, my work, and my life is something that I want to share with folks. It's very weird. It's very weird. Like, to be in a privileged situation where I am right now, I've never been in that
It's
situation.
complicated, isn't it?
And
yeah.
It's a little weird, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, I need to learn to do this. Otherwise, how am I supposed to show my kids?
Mhm.
Like, we're allowed to be successful.
Yeah.
We're allowed to be happy. We're allowed to achieve. We're allowed to do wild things. Like, there's the only person stopping us is us.
Yeah.
People can say, they can try, they can do whatever they need to do, but you need to know inside that that's something that you're willing to
Mhm.
to walk that path for, right? Like, in my teachings, an elder told me something that always stuck with me was meeting your prayers halfway, right? So it's like, you can pray, you can wish, you can hope, you can manifest all you want, but until you take those steps to meet that,
Halfway, yes.
it's not going to happen,
That makes
right?
so much sense. It's so true.
So these are the teachings that I teach, like, I raise my kids, like, to be a holistic person, right? To look at ourselves as, like, within the medicine wheel, like, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, to take care of ourselves in that way. Because if we don't take care of ourselves in a holistic way, we can't take care of anyone else. And we can't represent or show up in community in a good way, And I understand that. And I took the time. I took the time away from community. I took that time to isolate. I took that time to do the deep, dark work with the therapist. I took that time to cry myself to sleep for months at a time to process the last 40 years, And I'm so grateful I did that. And before I did that, I didn't think that I would make it to that point. Like, I was tired and going through a lot. And
So glad you fought for yourself, Nikky.
yeah, and it's like, that's the most beautiful thing, And I think everybody should be in therapy. I think having emotional intelligence, understanding the way that we work individually and how we connect with other people is really important. And it helps take away a lot of the heartache and the confusion when we're in these situations, or like being outside of yourself, like actually being able to not care what someone else is saying or
That's-
thinking or doing,
Mhm.
which is one of the most difficult lessons in this world. This is something that I teach my kids, but I'm like, I don't expect them to learn these things
Oh,
as
yeah.
children.
It's
These
ever
are
evolving for sure.
it's just I know that their brains are sponges, so it's like planting these seeds and then
Keep
demonstrating
saying it, modeling, yeah.
and like
Mhm.
that's the best I can do, and I'm like, I told them, I'm like, this year we're gonna get a car. What did I do? I got my N at 40.
Woo,
And I
baby!
just got a car 2 days ago. It's all mine, all paid off,
Girl,
insured.
I love it.
Like, we did it,
You did it.
and like that might just be like a material thing, but that's
That's
huge.
huge. Come on.
I've had my L since I was 16.
Mm.
And then my grandpa passed away and he wanted to, so there was
Yeah.
there was a little heartache there. And like it's just so wild because like when I was driving last night, I drove for the first time by myself. Like I went to go get some alkalized water.
Oh my God.
And
Oh my God.
I was driving and it was like I almost felt like he was there. Like he was like really proud of me.
I don't doubt
It's
that
like
at
you're doing it,
all. Oh, I see.
and
Just
and like I'm like, yeah,
did him proud. You did both of them proud. You did your family proud.
yeah. And I just see my kids and I'm like, I don't want you guys to ever feel that way. I can't see what your future is like or how you're going to handle life, but
Are you equipping them?
if I can help you through it or help you give you help to give you
Tools.
the tools, or if me doing it makes you feel like you can do it, then I'll do it.
Oh,
You know?
ultimate sacrifice.
And like that's the biggest thing is like even with my oldest, like they're so like I do a weekly rap cipher here at House of
Oh,
Owl
yeah.
every Tuesday.
Good plug for house.
Um,
Yeah.
I do it on Tuesdays at lunchtime from 12:30 till 1:30 because my son's at school and I can't
And
really
they,
go to
yeah,
the after ones.
yeah.
So this is more
So
for
this is when
like
you come. Yeah.
yeah,
You're
so
gonna,
it's like people who are free during the afternoons and like,
I can
parents
write
and
this down. Yes.
so I ended up bringing her to the cipher and I witnessed her freestyle for the first time in front of
Oh,
all of these people and it was the first time I ever cried in a cipher.
for sure.
I was like, wow, like she was raised with me. Like she was a little baby in like breakdance circles. Like she
Oh,
grew up in cipher circles. She grew up at shows. She grew up around rapping. She grew up around like concerts. She grew up around like
Nicole.
crazy shows and mosh pits and
Yeah.
backstage and
Incredible.
in the conferences, traveling, like
She's
she,
modern day Nikki to grandpa and your grandpa, like Rolling
yeah.
Stone, like you're doing the things and exposing her to all this music and art, and she is now fully embracing it. Are you ever just passing on that legacy? That's crazy to me.
I just,
Without knowing that you do this, it just
the
happened
most,
organically.
it's the most powerful thing you can do is use your
Yes.
voice,
Yeah.
right? To express yourself and be creative and just exist in this world and create something. And the beautiful thing about music is it lasts forever. And like,
Timeless, yeah.
and it's wild because like I took a pretty long hiatus from rap just because I went through quite a bit in my life. And there was times when, like I wasn't sure if I'd make it out the other side.
Mm.
But it's wild because even, like I've been through some real struggles. Like I've been homeless, like, and it's wild because even when it's like I pushed it away, that was the one thing that fed me.
It fed you.
Like
Yeah.
I would go on Granville with an amp and a mic and plug in my phone and rap for 4 hours and leave with $100 and people bought me food and they gave me all this stuff, and it's like,
You're nourished in so many ways, right?
and
You got
it was
food,
all,
you got the joy, the dopamine, everything.
and it was
Sorry.
always, and like even though I was like living in a tent and like taking a shower at the place, there was a purpose for it. And I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get there. And then I ended up getting my dream job and running this, and while still living in a tent. So for the first month, I was like saving my money, saving, so I could get a place.
Bless.
And it was hard because my daughter I had to make a choice there. Like I can't be homeless with her, like, and we deserve so much better. So I sucked it up and I did it. And it was really hard, but it gave me an experience and a perspective that I will never forget. And that's why when I say I have privilege and I know that some of people in my life or in community don't, I'm like, I want to share that. Like when I do these shows, 9 times out of 10, they're free. When I curate shows or put on shows for community, they're free. We're feeding people. And like, I'm taking money out of my pocket, you know, like during Christmas time, we'll make a big meal and go downtown and give it out. And like, it's just because it's like, I have the capacity to do that. And it's like, I have an extra $300, you know, I could buy my kids like, what? Like, they don't, you know, what do they, they already have like this stuff, you know? And it's like, or I could go and get a massage, or I could go get my nails done. But I'm like,
No.
no, I'm going to take this turkey that we're not going to eat, that was gifted to us, you know, and be like, I'm going to make this for people who will appreciate it,
Oh my goodness.
you know? And like that I'm just
That
like,
feeds your soul.
yeah. And then, you know, it's like giving what you have, and it's not necessarily money. It's also knowledge. It's also experience. It's also, you
All
know,
of it.
the love,
This is the general theme of your life is like the giving, you know, the giving, and in turn you're receiving the joy from the giving, and you're a gift. You're a gift. You're a mama raising your kids, and you're raising community. It's crazy to me. You know, one woman show, just doing all the things, and like the fact that you're doing everything with such intention. You know, there is purpose to every step you take, everything you do. It's the best gift you can give us, give me. I'm a different person after this conversation. I really am. Because there's so many things that we take for granted. And it's not even just the hardship. You are living your purpose, and so many moms and parents and people, either privileged or not privileged, there's so many people that just, they don't know how to do this, but you are sharing this gift of your soul in so many ways. And thank you for being here. I am humbled. I usually do these fun little quirky little fun rounds, blah blah blah. I need to focus on I need to just be in the sacred space with you, because I am a changed person, girl. You better believe I am not going to be going home complaining about the minuscule things in life. The joy of life is so huge. I get to express myself in this podcast. This is my joy. I get to hear stories and be inspired. It's my gift. Your children are lucky to have you. They're so blessed to have you. You made your grandparents proud, and I am honored that you shared with me, because I know this is not easy for you.
No, I am very private.
you.
I don't even, I got rid of my Facebook. My Instagram is public, but it's more like for music,
Yeah.
work stuff. But like, the one thing that struggles taught me is to be humble.
Mm.
Also my grandparents.
Yeah.
My grandpa taught me a lot about humility. And like, not to the point where it's a detriment, but to the point where it's like, you know, I understand what I'm capable of, but that doesn't need to be like blasted everywhere. I'm just going to do my work.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do my work. But something that, you know, some of my more experienced performer friends or artist friends have taught me is like, it's okay sometimes to like not be humble. It's okay, you know?
Yeah.
It's okay
Girl,
sometimes to like
celebrate
and be happy and share it and make the video.
Yeah.
Make the video.
Make the
you know,
video,
like
man. Yeah.
and it's, you know, like I just yeah. It's difficult for me because I don't want to be like, oh, look at me, because it's not about that. But at the same time, like, you can't inspire someone if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't, people won't see it if you don't put it out.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like, my hiatus from music was. Oh, I'll tell you this really quick story about
Please.
how I got back into it. So, I was working with the Coxsala Music Festival, and it was during COVID, which is when I learned how to teach. I taught myself videography. We ended up doing a whole online festival
Mm.
that year,
Mhm.
which I like curated and like helped film, and like, it's actually online.
All right. We're gonna put this in the show notes. We need to know.
And yeah, so that was the beginning. Like, it's not the best. Like, I still consider myself an amateur by all means to like a lot of this. Like, I'm not doing like really, really like big fancy stuff, but
Well, for me watching you, you really are. Come on, you're creating like world impact here. Come on.
Right after COVID, like right at the tail end of COVID,
Yeah.
I ended up going to Vancouver and directing this big thing. I'm
Yeah.
not going to get too much into it. But the next day I came back and then we did a show and we brought in Curtis Clear Sky and the Constellations.
Oh yeah.
Side note, Curtis was one of my first mentors
Mm,
when I first started working with youth, when I
yeah.
got into like creating the studio.
Yes.
And like I've recorded with him a bunch and like he knows that I rap.
Oh.
And it was wild because like I had friends there and friends that I've met when I moved here and none of them knew. Nobody
Oh my
in
goodness.
that whole building
Yeah.
knew that I rapped except for him.
Oh my goodness.
And what did he do? He called me on stage to rap with his band.
Bless.
And
I'm so glad he did
I was
that.
so happy because I was like, this is like so cool. I'm like,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I want to rap. I'm like, so I rapped, and then I remember looking over to my friends, and they're all like,
What on earth is happening? I love this story.
and then that was it. That like my fire got lit again,
Yeah,
and I
sure
was
did.
like, oh, I forgot how much I love this, and I'm like, I miss this, and
You
I'm like,
felt that
thank you.
rush?
And then so somebody saw me in the crowd, and they're like, next month I'm putting on this variety show. I'm like, they're like, can you headline it?
Oh, good.
And I was like, headline it. I'm
You
like,
said yes. You had to just say yes to Curtis. Then this happens.
yeah.
Oh,
And the
that's
same night, and then I reluctantly said yes. Well, I was like scared because I didn't know what I was gonna do, and I said yes, and we ended up selling out that show, and it was just the coolest thing. And I did a little bit of stand up, and I
Oh,
like,
come on.
yeah, it was a whole thing. And then I was like, and then the burlesque community
Oh,
here.
come on.
Let's just like, I'm not a burlesque dancer. but the
You're
burlesque
a
community,
burlesque.
they
Yeah, you're
brought me in,
appreciative. Oh, I
and they
love it.
started like letting me come in and be a musical guest and host, and
Gosh, I love
they just like wrapped their arms around me. So like that's
Oh,
why I support the burlesque
I
community
love
here
that.
so much.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I'll do free stuff. I'm like, like, because I'm
Crossover of the artists. I
I'm
love
just
it.
so grateful.
Yeah.
And like what they do is so powerful and
Yeah.
empowering, and like, and
As do you. You do all the empowering stuff. What a match. I like it.
yeah,
I'm here for it.
and then that was the start of that, and now I'm working on a whole bunch of new music.
Oh my goodness gracious. So I was going to ask you if you were to bottle up a moment in your life that really just illustrates, your role in this world, not just as mom, but as woman. I feel like that kind of really, you being on stage, that moment, that realization, that's the moment.
Oh yeah.
That's the bottle up
Yeah,
moment.
and that was right
Oh my
after I
God.
was diagnosed with ADHD. Like that was all around the same
Yeah.
time. Like I was really blessed in that way where um I everything just kind of clicked,
You made
and
that right decision.
and yeah, it was
Magical. It was the you pressed the button and everything else just exploded in your life.
mhm.
And I am so happy for you. I think this is a perfect way to just close and thank you and know that the fact that you can appreciate that your past is a huge part of your present, but you don't allow it and only it to define you. You've embraced everything. And now you're expressing and giving back the generosity from the gratitude. I mean, it's just exceptional. I mean, there's no other way to, like, when we talk about breaking cycles, I think that's all, that's not even, I don't even feel like this is what we're talking about. It's beyond that. It's breaking cycles for everyone in the community. It's creating new cycles. That's crazy to me. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you. Thank you. I just absolutely adore you for this. Wonderful, Nikki. Where can we find you and your wonderful kids, the youth group, everything? Just tell me everything. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Nikky E, NIKKYE_music. If you click on my link up there, there's a link tree which will bring you to some music, and will bring you to a link to the Hip Hop Kids project that I oh, This is like one of my most favorite projects I've ever worked on. I'm a faculty at the Victoria Conservatory of Music. I'm one of the first hip hop teachers ever. And I go into grade 4 and 5 classes in the school district here in Victoria and
Really?
offer free hip hop class.
Oh, come on
So
now.
we start off with hip hop history. We go into beat making. We make a beat together.
Incredible.
Then we write. And then we record a song.
Oh, come on.
And then we take that song and make a music video. And I'm with them for the whole year, an hour a week, 4 different classes. And again, we'll be doing this in September and hopefully out in community more. We also work with the Friendship Center. So there's 5 music videos on there that have been done in this past year.
Okay.
And I just want to push them out there. Go watch them and watch these amazing kids.
Support these kids.
And the work we're doing. And I just want to shout out all of the kids from Quadra and Craigflower. Like, it's really beautiful because Quadra is like 80% Indigenous. Quadra School is like has a really high population of immigrant kids, and it's so I'm just like I can see where it's like hard for them to speak, and every one of those kids went on the microphone.
Oh my God.
And they said something, and they rapped, and they wrote a verse.
Oh, come on. This is incredible.
And really came out of their shells. So like give it a like and support them.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much you could see the work that I'm doing right now.
Yes.
And I'm also working with the conservatory to develop Indigenous education and programming.
Oh my goodness.
Which is also a first.
I am so excited that we now have access to you. We know exactly where to find you. We know where to find these kids and support. Let's do this. Let's break cycles together. You know, to every parent that's rewriting the script the way our wonderful Nikky has, it's not an easy road. But we see you. We see your work. We see your efforts. And it's worth it. Because, like, here's the result. Here's the result. I mean, that's all I have to say. We see you. You're not alone. Thank you for joining us here. Thank you, Nikky, for joining me here on Sass and Small Talk, the mental load of parenthood, because it takes a village to raise a child and a community to raise their parent. We'll see you in the next episode of Sass and Small Talk. Bye. I feel like I need to take a nap. I for 48 hours. I am so gifted. Honored. To have you.
I need my sass back.
Signing off. See ya, guys. Bye. Signing off. See ya. Bye.